and she went another 15 miles on fumes.
She told me herself, so we're gonna go on a date. She and me, her and I, me and her.
Well, Dad, we were kind of hoping to save that till after dinner.
No, I want to hear about it now.
Maxine said if they needed help, they would give me a call.
No, you're leaving. You want to know why? Because I gotcha.
I'm amazed at how that boy could stand in my kitchen in front of my face and lie to me like that.
I'm going to stand up to Mrs. Huxtable.
Well, I don't think you want to do that.
Your wife won't let you do anything.
Hi, my name is Miriam, and this is the Black TV Show podcast, currently talking about The Cosby Show Season 3. Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 57, The Cosby Show Season 3, episode 9, Denise Gets a D. This episode is aired on November 20th in 1986. So the synopsis of this episode is: Claire has a pinched nerve and has to stay in bed. Cliff and the children try to make her day easier by doing chores around the house. At college, Denise gets a D in one of her classes and is afraid to tell her parents. I also want to mention, and I said this, I think the only time I really touched on this was from the first episode that I did for this podcast in January. That, you know, we understand that there was a controversy way after this show with, you know, of course, with Bill Cosby being in jail. And so I was watching this episode, and before you even see the theme song that comes on every time, the episode was preceded by a 30-second anti-drug public service announcement featuring Bill Cosby. I actually had to watch it like 3 times because I was just like, of all people, they decided him. Of course, I know it was a different time, and we all loved him at the time. But it just looked very strange to see it, you know, with the actual situation that he was in. I kind of wish, maybe Phylicia Rashad was able to do this a public service announcement. I know that this is 1986. I'm not sure when Saved by the Bell had their show aired, but I remember for Saved by the Bell, because they're another NBC show, there was an actual episode at the end where they did a public service announcement, including Brandon Chernoff, who, if you remember, I told you is the one who actually got The Cosby Show on the air. He was like, oh, this is such a good idea, we should have this show, and it's because of him we have this show. But he also actually was showcased in the PSA that was in the Saved by the Bell about don't do drugs and all that stuff. So I guess I feel like NBC somehow they did a whole bunch of PSAs throughout their NBC shows, but it looked very weird to watch. Tell me your opinion. I would love to hear this on Twitter or Instagram at Black TV Shows Pod. I had to keep watching this. I was just like, this is the wrong person. But like, of course, at the time we didn't know. It just looked wrong. So this is probably my last time talking about the whole situation with Bill Cosby. But it's just I had like goosebumps watching it. It just was just like, I wish they had Phylicia Rashad do it, or like one of the kids. But, it was a different time back then. So we start off with Cliff and Vanessa and Rudy are in the kitchen making breakfast for Claire. And Cliff asked if they forgot anything. And they're like, Rudy was like, ice cream. I agree with you, Rudy. Okay, ice cream is the best. I say to my friends all the time, I'm like, if I ever become famous, I will be the sponsor of Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Because, Ben & Jerry's ice cream is amazing. The half-baked, the chocolate therapy. I probably have said it already so many times on this podcast, so I'm really doing free promo for them. But ice cream is the best. But no, that is not the best for Claire. Rudy was like, I would want ice cream when I'm sick, and Vanessa was like, she is not sick, she has a pinched nerve. So if you guys are wondering what a pinched nerve is, it occurs when too much pressure is applied to a nerve by surrounding tissues, such as bones, cartilage, muscles of the tendons. This pressure disrupts the nerve's function and causing pain and tingling and numbness or weakness. So that's what Claire Huxtable has right now. And so Vanessa and Rudy are going to go deliver the breakfast to her in bed. And Theo tells Rudy, tell Claire, tell Mom that I'll be there before school. And Theo starts cleaning up the table without even being asked to clean up the table. And Cliff is like confused, like, did I ask you to clean up the table? And Theo was like, no, since Mom is laid up for a while, he thinks that everyone should pitch in and do a little bit extra, and he will still do his regular chores, and he will also take Rudy to dance class. And Cliff checks Theo's head to see if he has a fever, of course he doesn't, and Theo's like, well, why are you checking? And Cliff says he thinks when people have high fever, they say and do things that they don't really mean. And then Cliff gets Theo to check his forehead, because he thinks that sometimes when you have a high fever, or if you have a high fever, you hear and think you like to hear, but you don't actually hear. And Theo was like, you're fine and I'm fine, don't worry. And so the phone rings, and it's Denise at college, and she's coming home for this weekend. And she says she just has to pick up a paper and then she'll catch a train home. And so Denise says that she's getting an A on she thinks she's getting an A on this paper. And also in biology, she has a strong B, and Cliff is so happy. And so Cliff gets off the phone, and he says Theo's doing chores nobody asked him to do. Denise is getting a strong B, and he was like, I guess I'm getting malaria. And I'm like, I don't think so. But, is he in the tropical lands where there's mosquitoes? I'm not sure. And so we go to Hillman College, where Denise is going to see her professor, and the professor is giving Denise a D on her paper again. And Denise said she worked very hard on this paper, but she made the same mistakes as the last paper. And Denise didn't read the comments clearly, like she didn't really take those comments and actually made her paper better. So Denise mentions that she worked 2 weeks on this paper, but not really exactly 2 weeks. Like, she didn't actually spend like all the days and hours on this paper. She, it takes a while for her to get into writing papers. She thinks about it over a couple days, like while she's taking a shower, walking, and gets an idea, and she has all this burst of creative energy and starts writing. And the professor was like, I really wish you can control your burst, basically. And Denise says, this is how she wrote all her papers in high school, and she always got an A. And the professor says, you're in college now. This is not how you do it. And she says, you need to look over the comments and look over the paper again. And the professor is now letting Denise redo her paper, and it will be due a week from today. And Denise was like, okay, because she said that the next paper she would read those comments, but now she has a second chance. And so Denise was like, I gotta leave, I gotta get out of town. And so she leaves. And we go to the living room, and Rudy and Theo come home from dance class, and Cliff is in the living room at this time. And Rudy is upset, and she just says, it wasn't good. Dance class was horrible. And she goes into the kitchen. And so Cliff was like, what happened with the ballerina? And so Theo says that, the teacher handed out parts for the dance recital, and Rudy wanted to be the sun, but she got the wind. And Cliff asks, what's the matter? What's wrong with the wind? And Theo says he doesn't know much about ballet, but all that, the way home, Rudy says that this is not fair. I am the sun. And Theo tries to talk to her and say, shake it off. It's only ballet. It's not important. No one really cares. And Cliff just laughed. He's like, wow, you really are not sensitive. To Theo, ballet is nothing, because he probably never took ballet classes. But to Rudy, ballet is her whole world. I would understand. Dance, I love dance. If I actually went into dance, that would be my whole world, so you can't really say that to a child. And so And Theo says, I can't believe she's so upset about it. And Cliff was like, you don't believe? I remember when you were playing baseball when he was much younger, and the man didn't put him in the game. And when he got home, Theo threw his bat and gloves and says, I don't want to play ball anymore. And Theo was like, oh, okay. I guess it's because he realized he was in a similar situation. And so Theo was like, I'll go talk to her. And Cliff was like, no. You did enough. Okay, I will go talk to her. And so Cliff goes into the kitchen, and Rudy is drinking some milk, and Rudy basically says, she is the sun, and she doesn't want to be the wind. And Cliff asks, what's so good about the sun? And she said the sun gets to set and rise and shine on the flowers. I don't know how she said it. Photosynthesis. The way she said it was very specific. So I know the actual word. The word is photosynthesis, and I think I just said it wrong. It's so bad. He tries to correct her, because at first he's like, "What photo? What?" And he's like, "Oh, you mean photosynthesis?" And Cliff wants to know where she learned this terminology. And, Vanessa told her that the sun is the most important thing in the universe. And Rudy thinks that the sun is the most more important than the wind. So for people that don't know what photosynthesis is, which would be weird if you don't know, because at some point you would have learned this. I had to learn it very well in biochemistry. It was horrible because I had to learn the mechanism of it, like the details of the enzymes and the from each reaction to from taking carbon dioxide, making it into oxygen. It was horrible. I hated the class. Just hated it. So photosynthesis, which I'm just saying that wrong, so I apologize. The process by which green plants and certain other organisms transform light energy into chemical energy. In green plants, light energy is captured and used to convert water, carbon dioxide, and minerals into oxygen and energy-rich organic compounds. So that is photosynthesis, and I think I said that right now. And so Cliff asked Rudy to show him what the sun does, and the sun basically goes in a circle, and move the arm high to show the rising of the sun. And then he asks her to do the wind, and she's like, what a wind usually makes, And so Cliff says that the wind is far more exciting than the sun. And Rudy points out that the wind only dances at the very end. And the sun stays on the stage the whole play. And Cliff says, when people see this play, they will see the sun out there for a while. But the wind, they'll ask the wind to bring her back. And Rudy points out, they can't bring me back. I'm at the end of the show. I was like, oh man, I feel bad. And Rudy really thought about this whole thing really well. So Rudy's like, whatever. And she walks away, and she says she still thinks she is the sun. And Cliff was like, oh, this talk did not work, clearly. And so it's the evening time, and Claire is in bed, and Sandra and Denise knock at her door. And Sandra asks, why didn't you get up and open the door? And Claire was like, very funny. And, they kiss Claire, and they're like, Claire's like, be careful. So a note that I have from IMBD about this episode is, during season 3, Phylicia Rashad, who plays Claire Huxtable, was pregnant. As I have mentioned so many times throughout this season. Just so you know, I probably have said it like 100 times by now. And like in many episodes, her pregnancy was hidden. In this episode, which aired in November 1986, her character was bedridden due to a pinched nerve, while in reality, she was very pregnant, and her daughter was born in December 1986. So that's just a note from IMBD. I've told you with all these props and stuff like that, but you know, with this specific episode, she is stuck in that bed throughout the whole episode. And I heard from that the Cosby Show look back that happened in 2002 that they actually cut a hole in the mattress so that she could like fit down in there so that they hide the belly. So it's the crazy things that they do in show business, you know. And the reason Claire is in this position was she was teaching Rudy some of her famous ballet moves, and she picked her up and discovered that her little baby is a heavy child. That's so mean to say, I feel like, but I guess that's true. And Sandra says, "Oh, well, at least look at the good side. You're getting a lot of rest." And Claire was like, "Yeah, you know, I've had so much fun in the last couple of days. You know, I've, you know, saw a squirrel go up and down the tree. I got to, you know, count how many times I breathe a minute, or I blink." Her eyes blink per minute, and you get to hear herself breathe. And Sandra was like, so you bored then? And she was like, out of my mind. And so Claire wants to know the updates in both of Denise and Sandra's life. And Sandra says, you know, she's doing so well in college. She thinks she's getting all A's this semester. And Denise is just not happy because she knows she didn't get any A's. And she's like, yay, I guess. And then Sandra says that her professor wants her to join her in her research next semester because of her dream interpretation that she did for her psych class. And Claire is just happy. And so Claire was like, oh, so what about you, Denise? Well, how is it going? Denise was like, oh, it's getting cold in Virginia. We got a frost last week, Sandra says, oh, in Princeton, we had great weather. And I was like wondering to myself, I was like, where is Princeton? I already knew where Princeton was, but I guess I forgot where exactly. So it's in New Jersey. So isn't New Jersey have similar weather than in Virginia? So I didn't understand this whole thing. Like, why is it cold in Virginia and not in Princeton? I'm not sure. It just seemed very weird because I was like, if it was like more of like California, Arizona kind of, you know, place, then I would understand why it is much better weather. But Princeton is in New Jersey. So, and I just realized if Princeton is in New Jersey and they live in New York City, couldn't Sandra always just stay at home and like drive every day to school? Because like I hear that like a lot of people that live in New Jersey work in New York, so they drive every day to get to work. So I just assume, but I don't know where exactly Princeton is in terms of the state of New Jersey. It might not be where it's closer to the border of New York. I'm not sure, but yeah. And Claire asks Denise, like, how's class going? And she was like, I'll tell you later. I have to look for some sweaters. And she tells Claire, you know, don't go anywhere. And Claire was like, don't worry. I am not going anywhere. And we end Act 1 there, and we go into Act 2. And Rudy's practicing her dance as a wind, and Vanessa's watching her. And Rudy says, you know, she's only on the stage for 1 minute. Vanessa says, it doesn't matter. They're not going to remember. That's not what the audience is going to remember. The performance is not important. They're going to remember the bow at the end. Remember, Rudy does her bow. It's like very quick, like up and down. And Vanessa's like, they're not going to remember that. Vanessa shows her a better bow.
The first thing you do when you come out is you act really humble, like you're surprised or even applauding. And then you point to yourself and you say, for me? They love that. And then you walk slowly toward the center of the stage, shaking your head like you really don't deserve their love. No, please, stop. And then you put one foot behind the other, and you bow deeply at the waist, exhausted. Show them that you've given them everything you have, and then I'll be in the front row, and I'll yell, bravo, bravo, and that will start a standing ovation.
The way Vanessa is talking, it seems very dramatic, but you know, that's how you make a memorable bow. And so Theo and Sandra come home from the movie store. Oh, do you remember the times when there was a movie store? I remember the Friday nights, it's usually Friday nights, where I would go to the movie store to rent out a movie. It just, it was good times, man. Like, I really enjoyed that part is fun, because now we have like Netflix and Disney Plus and all these other streaming sites, and it's always hard to pick movies because it's just like all right there. I have access to all of them. But when you're at the movie store, you can't just rent all of them, because that would cost a lot of money. So I miss the good old days of the video store. It was a good time. They got movies for all ages. So for Rudy, Mr. Mouse joins the circus, and for everyone else, it's the Attack of the Two-Headed Dogs. That doesn't sound like a good movie. Like, I would not want to watch that. I don't know how Vanessa's watching. You remember that episode, Bad Dreams, in season 1? Or Vanessa couldn't watch. I guess now she's grown up and she's able to watch these weird movies. And so Denise is in the kitchen, so Sandra says, I'm going to go get her, and Theo's like, I'm going to go make popcorn. And so Vanessa's going to put the tape in the tape machine. And so Denise doesn't want to see the movie. And Sandra and Theo was wondering what's wrong. Why she's been acting strange, and she didn't even eat dinner. And so Theo was like, is it a guy problem? And she was like, no. And then Sandra says, is it trouble with school? And Denise was like, why bring school into this? Why? She's just very defensive. And Sandra's like, oh, I see. So it is about school. You're very, you can tell that she's very defensive. And Denise says, she has, after they keep pressuring her, she's like, okay, fine, I'll watch this stupid movie with you guys. And they were like, you might as well tell us, because we'll get it out of you at some point. And so Denise tells them it has to stay in the room between the three of them in the kitchen. And so they all sit down, and she tells them that the last 3 papers she wrote for freshman composition, she got D's. And they're like, whoa. And so then she also, so then Theo was like, oh, so you must have done a lot of partying. She's like, I didn't party. I worked very hard on those papers. And, she has a low C in biology and a high D in calculus. And Theo's like, you didn't party and you have all these grades. They're just like, this is not good. And she was like, but she's doing good in her modern cinema class. They have to watch a movie once a week, and she hasn't missed one movie yet. There's actually courses like that. I didn't know that. I never took one because I was never, even though I work in film, as I said, I studied in science and microbiology. But my coworker that I used to work with, he was telling me he was taking a cinema course, and they would watch a movie every week, and they would analyze it, and that's what he did in the course. I was like, what? I wish I had taken that course, but that was not going to be a course that would help my degree. So I was just like, no point. She says, she hasn't missed one movie yet, and Theo was like, are you going to flunk out? And she's like, no, only if I mess up. And she hasn't told the parents, and Sandra really strongly suggests that she tells the parents. And Theo says, I'd rather flunk out. I would walk out the door and say bye, and then end up going to the community center to play basketball for the next 6 months, I guess. But what if you go to Hillman and you're far away? You can't just sit you can't just sleep at the community center. So I don't know if he's thinking if he went to school in New York. I'm not sure, because then that would make sense. If he was staying in New York to study, then he could pretend that he's going to school for, while he's at the community center playing basketball. And Sandra says if the parents find out about her grades from someone else, they're going to be more upset, and she doesn't know how. So Denise is like, I don't know how to tell them this. And Theo says, I know. You would wait until Sunday night to have your bags packed and driving off and say to parents, I'm saying to mom and dad, I'm flunking. And the scene ends with Theo, hugging Denise, because of course Theo's just joking. And so it's bedtime. And Claire is happy to see that Cliff is going to entertain her by being the Hillman Marching Band.
Good, you're gonna entertain me.
It's the Hillman College Marching Band. Ladies and gentlemen, for your halftime entertainment, we are proud to present the Hillman College Flying Falcon Marching Band.
So in the middle of this marching band, Denise interrupts and she comes in. She wants to talk. So she lays down in bed with them, and she just wants to say to thank them and say, you know, I'm really enjoying Hillman. She's doing very well in her modern cinema class. I don't know why I said cinnamon. Sorry. And they both look at her and be like, modern cinema class? Why are you taking that? And so she said that she picked it up after she dropped her early American history. And Claire was like, what? You dropped your history class? And she was like, yeah, because the class started at 8 a.m. and she was having trouble getting into class on time. And the modern cinema class was at noon. I actually enjoyed taking classes in the middle of the day. That was the one thing I loved compared to high school, because high school you really are there for full on 6 hours and it sucks. But like with university, like I was like Denise, I wouldn't take early classes. I would take maybe like 10:30 or 11:30. And I enjoyed that. I would never want to take late night courses because I would just fall asleep. But I'm with her. I'd rather take classes that are in the middle of the day. I'm surprised that there was no history class during the middle of the day. So I don't know why. Like, history is a common course, I feel like, especially if it's like first year history. So it's very strange how she didn't find one that was at noon also. And she tells her parents that she's having trouble in class, and she hasn't gotten to a real great start. She has 2 D's and a C minus. Denise says she still plans to get, you know, the good grades by getting A's on everything upcoming exams, because you remember on the phone call she said that she had an A and a B on her courses, but she kind of lied on that. But she said she's still planning to get those grades. And, you know, Denise blames the teachers for giving her the bad grades. At Hillman, when they give you an assignment, they act like they don't care if you do it or not. In high school, the teachers made sure we did the work every day. Fact. I understand what Denise is saying. In high school, it was like a mandatory thing that you finish all your assignments. Like, you would get in trouble if you didn't. I took I've already mentioned this, but I took a calculus course, a university calculus course in high school, because they offered that program. And I'll be honest, I got an A in that course, but if I had taken that course in university, I don't think I would have gotten an A. I would have maybe had a B or a C. But the reason why I got an A, and also I was so close to getting an A+, but I kind of messed up on one question on the final exam. The teacher in high school every day helped us out, gave us all these practice questions, and made sure that we finished these questions every day in order to succeed, because he wanted all of us to get A's. That was like his thing. But once you get to university, you know, you're in a class of 200. The professor won't care if you do the assignment or not. You know, they got your money, so that really all that matters, right? So it's really up to you. And as Claire says, they are treating you like an adult. So, that is the honest fact. And they expect that you do things yourself. And so Denise says she has too much to take care of. She has to do laundry, and Clough interrupts her and said, "Isn't that the big bag that you brought downstairs?" And then she's like, "Also, I had to buy supplies, clean her room, eat and sleep, and all the girls from the dorm room come with their problems and like talk to her. And she doesn't even have time to go to her club meetings. And the club meeting that she goes to is Students for Social Justice Through Poetry Club." And Clough is like, huh? what kind of club is this? And so Denise says she can't spend all of her time studying. She wants to be a well-rounded person. And Claire says, I think you're blaming everyone but the right body, which is you. Claire says, if you just organize yourself, you'll be able to have all the time to do all the things you want and to study. So Claire mentions that she is in college. It's a different world. So I'm going to pause here, and on IMDb, I always check IMDb about all these episodes to see all the cool facts. So what IMDb says, Cliff and Claire are talking to Denise on the bed about difference in accountability between high school and college. The phrase, "it's a different world," is mentioned. This becomes the name of the spin-off featuring Denise's character, A Different World, in 1987. So, fun fact that term came from this episode. Of course, I've told you guys we will get into A Different World in September. I can't wait to. I'm really dreading season 1. I really don't like season 1, so I might. Those episodes will definitely probably be very short. But once we hit season 2, when Debbie Allen produces and directs, whew, I can't wait for that. It's such a great show. And so Claire says that tomorrow she will help Denise organize her schedule. And Cliff says they want Denise to get a wonderful education because their money is a terrible thing to waste. So true. So true. I feel like I'm probably going to use that quote at some point in the future. And so it's the next day, and Claire is helping Denise on the paper. And basically, Claire is telling her that you need to write this paper as if the prof has never read the book. Which makes totally a lot of sense, because you want to be very clear and concise with what you're writing. And so Claire says... so that's what they work on. And so Claire says, if Denise is in trouble, she should go to her professors. That's what they're there to help you. That is true. In your university, they would have I don't know what it's called, open hours? It's called office hours. And so it would be a few times a week, and you're allowed to go to their office and ask questions. And so I understand what Claire is talking about in terms of that. And so Vanessa interrupts and says that she wants to give them a study break. And, at first Claire was like, we're in the middle of something. And also Denise was like, sure, let's have this break. And Vanessa's like, you really need this break. So Rudy does her part as the wind. And she does the wind, and she goes out. She comes back and does her bow that Vanessa taught her. Very dramatic. For me, oh no. And bow. and then she leaves like a wind, and the episode is over. And so we had one guest star on this episode, which was Rosalind Cash. She was the dean. Dr. Hughes. I said dean because she will become a dean in the show A Different World. She'll be in a few episodes there. Which I mentioned. So she's in A Different World. She is in Good Times, What's Happening, 227, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Rock, General Hospital, Tales from the Hood, which is one of her last credits. And I say Tales from the Hood because I've never seen Tales from the Hood, but the third movie of that franchise was actually filmed in my city. Unfortunately, I was not picked to be in that production, which I was sad because I was like, it's all a black production, I would love to be part of it. But the third movie out of that franchise was made in my city. So fun fact right there. Rosalind did pass away October 31st, 1995, which is a few months after I was born. That's pretty sad. And she died from cancer. And so the lesson for this episode is college is a different world. You will be treated like an adult and need to take accountability of your college experience. And the question I have for you guys, is, did you have trouble when you first went into post-secondary education? I'm saying post-secondary education because I can't just assume people are going to college and university. People do go to trade school and all that stuff. So I'm just going to say post-secondary education. I can't really remember, but I feel like I had less of a trouble because of all the friends I had that, came from my high school or I knew from my community. So we were able to help each other out in the courses. But if it wasn't for them, I probably would have a lot of trouble at university. I know throughout the years after that, when we all went our separate ways, it kind of got harder for me. And so not at first, but after a while, it did get harder. So the question is, did you have trouble when you first went into post-secondary education? Let me know at Twitter and Instagram at Black TV Shows Pod using the hashtag #GetAD. Because I was like, I can't use the whole phrase because it's too long. And so the next episode is episode 58, The Cosby Show Season 3, episode 10, A Girl and Her Dog. And I will talk to you all on the next one.